on today. Thanks for having me again, Charles. We go back so many years. It's like funny how time flies. So I'm so happy that you're still a part of my sphere of influence and having me
Yeah,
back on. Yeah, and
absolutely. No, I super appreciate it. Right, I get your emails, I see the funding, and I think that's what's interesting. Like as we're starting to think about this and what 2024 looks like, and we just with all the news, like I think there's a lot of people out there that believe that Colorado isn't the right place to go do fix and flips or even the Burr method or whatever that looks like. And I am seeing you continuously take down deals with your clients, and it's like, okay, no, there's still absolutely margin if you're partnered
oh,
with the right people and you know how to do this.
100%. And I only post a very small amount of deals that actually got done and successful deals. And so, no, it definitely fixing and flipping and the Burr strategy is alive and well in Denver and Colorado. Like you said, you do, need to gain the knowledge and build the sphere of influence and learn from mistakes. The best way to learn is actually doing it, as time shows time and time again. But if you have the right team around you, we have a lot of brand new investors. We have the whole gamut of, some clients that have done, 10 years, 10 deals a year with us for multiple years, and others that are just getting started. And Julia just had a client. Julia, you can speak to this too if you like. Very first deal they did, and they just sold it. I think they had what, like, Julia, you want to hop on? Was it like six offers in one day, and all of
Yeah,
that stuff you hope for?
oh, I should probably go in another room because we're echoing.
Oops.
Hold on.
We're in the same office, so she's taking her phone out. So
Yeah,
Julia
sorry
has,
about that.
go ahead.
We were echoing because we were sitting in the same office. But yeah, I just worked with some new investors. They bought from a local wholesaler and they bought from me in October. Properties all fixed up now on the market. I think they got 5 or 6 offers, 2 of which were cash. And they should be closing in about 2 weeks. So, first flip and a very successful one.
Yeah, when she says bought from me, she was the loan officer. So she bought it from the wholesaler, but Julia was the loan officer on it. And just a little background, I am Kim Hubbard. I have been doing fix and flip loans. This is my 30th year doing fix and flip loans. And 26 of them have been with Merchants Mortgage, the company that we're with. And Merchants has been around here in Denver since 1961. So super well established company, have been through all of the real estate cycles and been doing the fix and flip loans the entire time that I've been at Merchants, so the last 26 years. So we have a lot of history and experience behind us. Julie is a loan officer. She does not only Colorado, but California as well. And she's done deals in multiple states because we are in all but 11 states now. So we've grown a lot, Charles, since that first time I met with you. And so, yeah, if you have deals yourself or for your own personal deals or clients that are out of state, keep us in mind for that as well, too, because we've been doing deals in many states at this point now. And I'll take into the slide just to give you a little bit more history about Merchants. And Julia, this is her, she interned with us and continued on, became a loan officer. So all total, she's been with us 7 years. So she has a lot of experience as well. See, just gonna make sure I'm on the right screen. There we go. So a little bit about Merchants Mortgage. We only work with real estate investors. We don't do any homeowner loans. We don't do any HELOCs. It is all real estate investor related. And so certainly we have a large portfolio of the fix and flips to sell.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a good percentage of clients that do the fix, that acquire, fix, and rehab and repeat. So the whole Burr strategy: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. is a decent part of our portfolio. We do ground up construction loans for investment properties, so spec homes that clients build and then sell to homeowners. And so we've had clients that start out just doing like simple rehabs and then building themselves up to the ground up construction loans. So we see that path taken. Not all clients want to do that. Not all clients want to take it to that level of ground up construction, but over the years, we have a decent amount of clients that have done that. And so a good amount of projects you'll see in areas like the Highlands, Lower Highlands, Wash Park, U Hills, any of those that are scrapes and rebuilds. We've done a number of those over the years through these products. We also have the DSCR loans, which is long-term mortgages. For anybody not familiar, DSCR stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. And that's a loan for rental properties where we do not look at the client's income. We just look at the ratio of rent to the mortgage payment on that property. So that's a product that we have, and Julia's closed a couple of those recently. We're starting to see more demand for that product, and the rates have been coming down on those longer term products too. So we're seeing more and more interest in that for holding as rentals. And we're very much a niche. We are often like put into the hard money category because we are not a bank and we're not a conventional mortgage lender. But in reality, we're kind of a blend in between a little bit more conventional loan and hard money because we are a lot faster and easier than a bank and conventional loan. So we're not a conventional loan, but we're also not true hard money where they only really look at that asset itself, the property. True hard money is a lot more expensive. We tend to be a lot cheaper than traditional hard money, and even some of the hard money lenders that are more in our space, we tend to beat them out on rates and fees, or we lend more money, so less money down. So we're a really good blend within the conventional space and the hard money space in between the two. And as I mentioned, we are now lending in 39 states, founded in 1961, as I mentioned. And for any of you who may have heard of KKR, that is who we are backed by. They are a large investment firm and they have a major amount of funds set aside for fix and flips. And so that has given us this power to be able to go more national and just have a lot more money to lend locally as well. So that's been a big boost to our funding. And then just in the last 10 years, so this is not our entire history, but just like in the last 10 years, we have done over 5 billion in these types of short-term investor funding transactions. And then, sorry, I keep going the wrong way. Just a few of the benefits of working with merchants. And then after we go through some of this introductory stuff of so you guys understand what we do, we will also look at a real life example, just one of many, but it'll give you kind of a good idea of what an actual project example looks like. But we are faster and easier than like I mentioned, than banks are. We do not have debt to income ratio requirements. We can close in a week, which is fast. We do not have to have multiple bank statements like a traditional loan does. We only get the most recent ones. The funds do not have to be seasoned. So we're not anything like bank or conventional, but as mentioned, we're typically cheaper than true hard money. We will do a high amount of leverage, which means a lower down payment. So if the investor has a little bit of experience, like if they've done a flip or two in the last 3 years, we often can get them 90% of the purchase price of the property plus 90% of the repair funds if they do want to borrow the repairs. They're not required to borrow the repairs if they want to fund those on their own. We just have to show that they have the ability to do that. If they're not going to borrow the repairs, we want to see that they're going to have the ability to get the project to the finish line. So we will verify through their liquid assets that they have the money to do the repairs if they're going to want to go that on their own. And then we do compare our loan amount to the after repair value appraisal that we'll get. And we are able to get appraisals very quickly. Again, it's not like conventional. We have a team of appraisers. They're not employees of ours, they are independent, but they've all worked with us on this product for, anywhere between like 15 to 20 years. They're totally in tune with us doing very quick closings, so we can get those valuations done very quickly. So we'll take our loan amount that we calculate and compare that to that after repair value number. And we'll want that ratio to stay at or below 70%. Sometimes we'll go to 75, but generally we want to stay at 70% because that 70% loan to value is going to, should set them up for success as making profit as a flip to sell, or if they're going to refinance and hold on to it as a rental. That 70% loan to value puts them in a very good position to be able to refinance into long-term mortgages. So again, we kind of want to look at their exit strategy and put them in a position that's going to set them up for success. Of course, things they have to control some of that too. Like we, can't help if they go over budget or if they overprice the property or those things. Those are things they have to learn and do as the investor themselves. But we want to be as proactive as we can on our end to set them up for success. And then, as mentioned, our fix and flip product, it doesn't matter whether you sell it or you refinance. So it works either way. It's the same product for fix and flip or the BRRRR strategy. Those quick closings we can typically do within a week or less, assuming the seller side is ready and assuming that you can move quickly as well, because we will need to get your repair budget for the property. So if you are going to do the quick closings, that's great. We're totally down with that. We do many, many quick closings. We have the team for it. Doesn't scare us at all. It actually gives us a lot of adrenaline and wanting to get it done. But it will require you on your end to get the repair budget pretty quickly to us to meet those quick turn times.
Well, that might not scare your team, Kim. I can tell you that it is terrifying as an investor to do that. I remember doing it at least on one property where that's how we wrote the contract. We were like, we can close in 8 days. And so what that required, and so that's what the whole reason why they took the offer. They said, okay, cool. Like we got to keep this dude's earnest money. If he can't close this thing, let's roll the dice and take it. And we were able to get it done. But what it does require is that you actually know your numbers, because what Kim and her team are going to do is they're going to send it over to an appraiser. And it's not like a typical appraiser. This appraiser is going to say, okay, cool. So based off the comps and based off of what you're buying this house for and the amount of money that you're putting in, does this make sense? And they will question you, right? Like if you're like, oh no, well, I'm going to be able to do this, they're going to say, cool, show me those comps where you're getting this. Like, it's trust but verify kind of thing. So I can say that like 100%, like Kim and her team can get this thing done that quickly. And while they're getting adrenaline from this, it does cause a little bit of anxiety.
Yes, and it gets easier, but yeah, it is still competitive out there, and so you are oftentimes putting in the quick closings so you can compete against cash offers. But yes, probably on the first one for a first-time investor, it's going, you're moving very quickly and needing to get those numbers in. So it's a good idea to get pre-approved where you don't have a contract yet, but you're getting us your information to get the loan set up and start doing some of the homework of asking other investors or realtors of who they could recommend as contractors, and kind of starting to get some of that laid out ahead of time before you jump into one that you have to close in 5 days. So there is something to be said if you can start building that sphere of influence prior to signing the ink on the contract. And then something we do that is unique, and you don't see this on many or very, very few other fix and flip or ground up construction loans, and that is we will do advances from the repair account if we are lending you the repair money. And so unlike traditional fix and flip or construction loans where you have to pay out of your own pocket, get the work done, and then get reimbursed for that, we do allow you to get some upfront money in stages out of that draw account. And so after you close on the loan, you can do a first draw with us for up to 1/3 of your total escrow account. But if it's a larger account, like if it's over $90,000, we'll limit that to 30,000, because if it's a $200,000 rehab, we're not going to give 1/3 of that. That's just way too much money to give up front. So it'll be the lesser of 1/3 or 30,000, whichever is the lesser number. And that is very helpful to our clients to be able to get some cash back in hand, to be able to start doing the repairs and putting down their deposits and buying materials versus having to buy all of that upfront and then not getting any upfront money and having to get work done and get reimbursed. And we are able to do future advances beyond the first one as well. The next advances will depend on how much of the total project you got done at that stage with the prior money that we've given you as an advance. So like if you do your second draw, we send our person out there, they report back to us that 20% of the total project got complete with that advanced fund. Then your next draw would be for 20% of your total escrow account. But again, you're getting upfront money versus just reimbursement. So it is nice to have that feature and pretty unique. We don't see that often offered throughout the entire project like we do. And no worry about income. There is no debt to income ratio on this loan. You do not provide tax returns. We do look at liquid funds, which we'll get into, but absolutely no debt to income ratio requirement. And of course, investors want to close oftentimes in their LLCs or corporations or trusts. We absolutely do that. It doesn't add much paperwork on at all to close in an entity. It's very simple. But if you do want to close in your personal name, you have that option too. We can do either. It's not an absolute on either side of this. And then, like I said, we do have 30 years of experience in this type of lending. So, not our first rodeo by far. We have closed, thousands of loans in the time that I've been here. Sorry, I got to get this right. There we go. Going over some of the basic terms of the loan so you guys understand it for yourself or for clients. Excuse me. We're generally on a single family, and that could be a townhome, or we also do condos. We're typically lending 85 to 90%, so just 10 to 15% down of the purchase price. And again, if they want to borrow the repairs, we'll also lend that corresponding 85 to 90% of the repair funds as well. And then we'll look for that loan amount to be no more than 70% of the finished value of the property. So I put a little example on there that you can look at as to how you figure out, okay, here's how I calculate my loan amount. So if you were buying something for $450,000 and you were going to put $70,000 in repairs to it, that's a total of $520,000 between your purchase price and your repairs. If we're lending you 85%, we take the 520 times 85%. That would give us a loan amount of $442,000. And then it's actually very simple of how you back into, okay, then what does my after repair value need to be to stay at a 70% loan to value? So if you take that loan amount, the $442,000, and at this point divide, do not multiply. You'll get an absolutely wrong answer if you multiply. So divide by 0.7, which is the 70%. It tells you that if you're buying a property for 450, putting 70 into repairs, we're lending 85%. And then to stay at a 70% loan to value, you would need an after repair value of $631,500. Now, if the appraisal did not come in at that for whatever reason, there's a variety of things. Maybe you do have some comparable sales you want the appraiser to consider, you can provide those. They'll definitely look at those. They won't use them unless they're truly good comps. I mean, they are doing their job as an appraiser to come up with as realistic and supportive of value as they can. But there's sometimes, you know, borrowers will have additional information that maybe the appraiser didn't have, or it wasn't clear in the repair budget. And then after it was explained, you know, the appraiser was able to come up in value. You could also like revisit your budget and maybe shave some in your budget and still have it be valued at the same amount. It's just like you've got too much padding in your budget. You could go back and, you know, possibly get some seller concessions or price reduction. Maybe it's a combination of these things. Or you could just bring the additional cash to close to stay at the required loan to value. But, you know, most times with investors, you know, doing reasonable due diligence, we are seeing that their values are supported. If they're not, they're generally, you know, going back and revisiting like, okay, you know, if the appraiser is quite a bit lower than I was thinking, maybe I better look at why. So it is nice to have that appraiser opinion as well. And if you are borrowing the construction funds from us, we only charge the interest on the construction portion as it's being drawn. So you won't be paying on, you know, if you have a $100,000 budget, you're not going to be paying on those funds from day one. That portion will just be charged as you are pulling money from the repair account. And at that point, then we start charging on the incremental amounts as they've been drawn. As far as rates and fees go, and of course these fluctuate with the market. Our rates have stayed the same for quite some time now, but we do, you know, visit the market and the competition and see what's going on and adjust our rates accordingly. And we have different options. Like if you are doing a longer project, you know, it may be more advantageous to you to take a lower rate with an origination fee. If you're doing a project that's going to be pretty cosmetic, it may be more advantageous to you to have no origination fee, but with a higher interest rate. So there are those options available, and it's not a one size fits all. Some factors that are going to play into it is what is your experience level? You know, how much are you putting down? How much are the repairs? But to give you a good flavor of where the rates and fees are right now on the fix and flip, usually anywhere between 9.5% and 10.5% on the interest rate if you have an origination fee of 1 to 2%. And then with no origination fee, we're typically 12 to 14%. And as mentioned, we stay very competitive. So if you have gotten a pre-approval or an offer from another lender and you'd like to see if we can price match that or beat it, we'd certainly like look at it. And oftentimes we are able to do that if you've gotten an actual offer from another lender. And then as far as closing costs go, there's a $9.95 processing fee. The appraisal is $6.50, and then you'll have customary, because they do close obviously through title companies like a normal loan does. So you'll have title and recording fees. And we're always very upfront about our closing costs and, you know, very transparent about rates and fees. You guys need to know as investors, you know, what your profit's going to be. So you've got to know all the costs, and we're extremely transparent about all of that. And then because it is fix and flip, it's a short-term loan. It's a 6 to 9 month loan. It does have an automatic 3 to 6 month extension, so it's got some safety net to it. But if you did go over your initial 6 to 9 month period, it does roll over, but there would be a monthly extension fee. That does not change your payment amount. Your payments keep staying the same. The extension fee is 1/3% on your loan amount, and they get added onto the payoff at the end of the loan if you do need additional time. And then there's no prepayment penalties on these loans. If you do take the no origination fee, we do have a 2-month minimum interest requirement, but that's, you know, most people are going to have the loan out for 2 months. So that's usually a non-issue. Anybody have questions on the terms or making sense, or any confusion or anything I can answer at this point?
So that's why fix and flips always look like shit, because they're trying to make money.
Absolutely. Fix and flip is all about making profit. Yes, absolutely. And, you know, finding the diamonds in the rough, like the example we're going to go through, so many of them have something that's like functionally wrong with them. And of course, like no owner occupant is going to buy most of these fix and flips in the condition that they're in or the non-functional nature of them. So if you can find one where it's got some issue that's just making it non-functional for the neighborhood and turn it into something that meets the demands of that neighborhood, there's a great amount of profit to be made, of course, if you buy it right. But so like the one we're going to go through, it's in the DU area. And the way that the property was, it was 3 bedrooms, but only 1 small bathroom, which is not going to work great for a family. You know, anybody that is going to use 3 bedrooms probably wants more than 1 dinky bathroom. And so they were pretty easily able to convert to a 3-2, which we'll go through. And I think that at the end of the day, they made like $70,000 in a 3-month period. So definitely profit to be made.
And do you
Well,
guys
to that point, Kim, go ahead, James.
do you guys also do like other than fix and flips, like if something needs to be scraped, do you guys also do, I mean, that would extend the term, right? Because that's, you're not going to scrape a house and build a whole new house in that period of time. Are you going to go over that as well?
Yes, so I don't have like a ground up construction example in here, but absolutely we do ground up construction, and many of them are scrapes. Like I mentioned, like we've done many in like Highlands, Lower Highlands, University Hills, just Wash Park, some in Crestmore. So the term on that is typically 12 to 18 months versus the 6 to 9. So it is a bit, it's some of the same general principles as the fix and flip loan, but it's a larger project. So yes, longer time is granted and the terms are a little bit different on the scrapes.
So are you still using somewhat of the same, like the 85%? Are you still using some of the same numbers and how you're?
Usually with the ground up, it can be 80%, albeit I've had clients that we've done 85 and a few that we've even done 90% for.
Okay.
Especially if they've got a track record. Usually on the ground up, we're going to have to see that they've got a track record. It doesn't necessarily have to be with us, but we generally don't take like brand new clients on ground up construction unless they've already done like a lot of flips. Because that's just like next level,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so everything we do is really like the underwriting is very like makes sense. It's not something you shake your head at and go like, I don't get that at all. Most of it is like very kind of common sense. And then for qualifying, what we do for doing the 85 to 90%, we typically do want to see a middle credit score of a 680. We can go lower than that, but then it generally probably is going to require the 15, maybe 20% down. And we don't often go below like a 640, 620, somewhere in there. We do want to see, you know, reasonably good credit. And most people, honestly, that we see come in higher than a 680 middle credit score, but that's all we require is a 680. And then we will want to verify their funds down. So that could be coming from checking, savings, stocks. They could be using their home equity line of credit. That's all fine. Again, the funds do not have to be seasoned. We do not have to see that they've been sitting in their bank for a month or two. We just have to see that they have them. They may also be getting funds from another partner, and that's fine too. We'll just want to verify those. And then we'll also want to see, just kind of for safety and soundness reasons, again, kind of makes sense. We'll want to see that they've got some liquid reserves over and above the down payment. So for our liquid reserves, we like to see that they have 6 months of the payment on just this loan itself, not all of their mortgages or all of their debts, just this loan itself. And we'll want to see if we are funding the repairs, that they've got an extra 10% of the budget, just because naturally in construction, most people end up going over the budget. We want to see that they've got some wherewithal to handle if they go over that budget. Because once we close on the loan, I can't go back and get additional construction funds. So if they're going over budget, they've got to cover that out of pocket. And applying is really easy. We just have them do an online loan application. It's short, it's sweet. Once you've done one, we keep it on file. You don't have to keep redoing it. And we'll have you upload those liquid asset statements. So again, checking, savings, 401ks, home equity lines of credit. And then again, no tax return. So just really looking at credit and the liquidity verification for qualifying is the main gist of it.
And then you obviously take in like payments that they have, like if they bought a car, you take that into consideration as well when you're doing the 15% down in the 6 monthly payments.
No. So
Okay,
there's no.
so you just look at their bank account and what they have liquidity in their bank. Okay, that makes sense.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And we will count retirement funds too, although retirement funds are not as liquid or as easy to access as like checking or savings. So we count half of retirement funds as liquid when looking at these qualifying factors. But it's nice that we count them. It's also a plus that we allow home equity lines of credit to be counted as well. And then I keep going the wrong way. Sorry, guys. So jumping into the project example, which is what everybody, that's always the fun part. And this is just, I just picked one and a recent one. And, you know, this isn't like the most amount of profit anybody's ever made. It's not the least amount either. So, you know, somewhere that's, you know, a realistic example of a property bought right, rehabbed right, and, you know, a good amount of profit made. So this was purchased in September of 2023. The buy price was $475,000. Again, it's a project in the DU area. And it had a lot of great things in the sense that it, like the seller had completely remodeled the kitchen itself. And there was only a few things they changed in the kitchen. So that really helped their budget. But a lot of the major kind of systems things were needing repaired. So it did need a new roof. There was sewer repair that needed new HVAC. The backyard was an absolute mess, you'll see in the pictures we get to. And again, it was the 3-1 with just a tiny bathroom, and there was no main ensuite. And so this is really where they were able to add a lot of value by doing the main ensuite. And we'll look at the pictures on that. So they were able to get significantly discounted price and some concessions because of these bigger ticket items that they did have to do, that they got some credits for handling some of that. So they sold it December of 2023, which is only 3 months from buy to sell time. Sold it for $655, bought it for $475. And in a next slide, we'll go through like what their profits look like. We'll get to that slide so you can see how we get from $475 to $655 and a $70,000 roughly profit. And it's a ranch home, had no basement, nice north facing corner lot. That was all a plus. 1,060 square feet. They did not add any square footage, but they were able to convert from a 3-1 to a 3-2. And it also had a nice oversized 2-car detached garage that you access from the alley, which was common for the neighborhood. So those things were all a plus. The oversized garage, the lot was a plus. Their budget was $59,820. And of course, as I mentioned, they're able to do advances. So on their first advance, they got about $20,000, about a third of $60,000 as their first advance to get the project going. We did lend them 90% of the purchase price, 90% of the repairs, and that loan amount did meet that 70% or less of after repair value on the appraisal that we got. And then here's how you calculate their profit. So of course, you got to take what they sold it for $655,000 at the end of last year here, December 29th, 2023. Then you got to deduct out all of the costs. Of course, the main one being what you bought it for. Always got to buy it right. So bought it at the 475, 59,820 in repairs. Our loan origination fee, the terms on this loan with them on this deal was a 10% rate and a 2% fee. But again, there's some variation on that depending on experience level, how much you're putting down, if you want to do the no origination fee, all of that. The closing cost, 2,100, which is going to be that processing fee, appraisal fee, and recording and title costs. They held this loan for 3 months, so 3 months worth of interest on the loan amount at a 10% rate was about $12,000. She is a real estate agent, so their commission on the sales side was 3%. And they had, of course, the sales cost of title insurance when they went and sold it. So their total cost was $580,230. And so you take your sales price minus your total cost, and they made roughly 75,000. I said 70, but 75,000 in 3 months. And this was their second loan with us. So they were still pretty new investors. They've done their financing with us, and this was their second one. They are now out hot to try to find their next one. And then some of the pictures we can see of what they did to the property. And it had a lot of great things to it. The floor plan was already open. You can see like there's no real change to the floor plan here because it was pretty open. It already had these nice windows. I think they had to replace some of the windows. Their flooring needed to be changed, you know, taking it from this kind of concrete looking, not very attractive tile to the wood flooring. They did engineered hardwood here. They could have done just vinyl probably, but they did engineered. And of course, staging is making still a huge difference in every sale that we see. Sometimes the staging is selling the property, just making it so much more attractive and showing functionality. They staged it with a little 2-person table here. So they did have a good professional stager and a good professional photographer on the sales side. You can see like they even kept the ceiling fans. So there were already these canned lights here. So there was a lot they didn't have to change, which was great. But again, having to replace some of the major systems. And then this is where the money was made for them, that they took this area on the top picture with the red paint. The seller had used that room as like a media room. They had a big TV that was setting on the fireplace, covering up the fireplace, and a couple of lounge chairs in there. Our buyer put on the barn doors and turned this into the main bedroom with the ensuite. And again, that just changed the whole dynamics and whole buyer pool of the property, having it be a 3-2 instead of a 3-1. The kitchen, and this was like a real, just moneymaker for them too. And that in this example, which you don't see this often, but the former owner had already remodeled the kitchen. So these new appliances were already there. Again, the ceiling fans there, the overhead, the sink and the faucet. They did replace the countertops to brighten it up from the gray. They replaced the flooring, but just a terrific thing to walk into on this property and not have to redo that. And then this is what that media room, now the main ensuite, and just painting the brick and with the accent wall just dramatically changed the room and just makes it so inviting. The staging looks great. Again, this has the barn doors cutting it off from the living room now. And then you can see before, so this became, the closet became the master room closet. And I believe this door just opened to storage. I can't honestly remember what this door opened to, but it became the master or the main bedroom ensuite with the double vanity. and a shower, no tub, but that didn't matter in this case because there is a tub in the other bathroom. So completely functional now and sold very nicely. And then this used to be the main bedroom. Of course, they just turned it into a second bedroom. And again, still 3 bedrooms total. And then here's the bathroom as it was, the only bathroom before the remodel. And after, they were able to keep the tile, they were able to keep the tub, the toilet. They just removed this little pedestal sink and put a vanity in on this side instead. And just quite an improvement with the subtle changes that they did in that. I think the last picture is going to be the backyard. Total mess. I do not know what all these holes were. Don't even want to know. But they just, landscaped it. And this didn't cost a lot to landscape, but obviously like radically changed the appearance of the backyard. So this again is only like a second time client. They've done well on both of them and really, followed the principles. I've got like some do's and don'ts on here of, and they did all of these things they did get a pre-approved first. So they were ready to go when they put in that contract. They had already gotten approved on our side. They had already, looked into some contractors. They definitely knew how to compare the comparable sales and compare apples to apples and make adjustments for things that were not similar. They definitely looked at how the rest of the neighborhood was fixed up in terms of rehab properties that sold well and what the current trends in that neighborhood were. They hired out the work because if you don't have the ability or the time, you're not saving yourself any money by trying to learn how to tile bathroom floors or any of that. It's like, let the professionals handle it unless you are truly capable and have the time. They were over at the project a lot. They really treated it like a business and were there, probably every few days checking on the contractor. They did not over improve the property for the neighborhood. They just made it very functional for the neighborhood. They did borrow the repair money from us, which kind of forces you to be paying attention to your budget. I've seen some investors, it just floors me, where they're funding the repairs on their own, but they're not really keeping track of their numbers. And you could ask them, well, how much have you spent so far? And they're like, I don't know. I haven't really looked at it yet. It's like, well, that's not really the way to be doing it. You want to know where you're at all point in time on your budget, because if you're going over, you can start figuring out some ways to get it reined back in. So that's just it, eating into your profit if you have no idea where you're at on your budget. And we do require, and they did have in a 10% contingency in their budget because there's usually something unexpected. And they were very conscious of how they priced the property and not overpricing it when they put it out, because you guys probably know as agents, like if you overprice it and really stigmatize it, it sits. And people just wait for that next price reduction. So they put a lot of thought into how they priced it when they put it out on the market. And then I think probably the last site's just my number. My cell's the 303-898-1366. Julia's also, like I said, a seasoned loan officer. Hers is 303-250-7095. And we'd love to work with you guys directly if you're interested in flipping, or if you have clients. That's just like our passion. And so we're available. We take calls, nights, weekends, all of that to get the job done. So don't hesitate to reach out. And I don't know if we have any time left, or I think somebody put up a question. Let's see. Oh, Julia put up her number. Good. Thanks, Jules. Anybody
what
have
questions do we have?
I have
What
one.
questions do we have for Kim? Yeah, go ahead, James.
So they made like 70K or whatever on that property. Are they doing a 1031 exchange to avoid taxes, or what are they doing?
That's a good question, James. that is pre-tax. So they will end up paying income taxes on those. Fixing and flipping is like a job. It is going to be, short-term capital gains on it. So whatever their tax bracket is what they pay taxes on.
Okay, so they pay based on their tax bracket on what they made
Yes.
that year. Okay.
Yes.
Is there, instances where people do 1031 exchanges and just roll that over into buying a new property, or is it like the timelines just don't match up?
We have done 1031 exchanges. You don't see many of the flips though being done on 1031 because the way that the 1031 rules are, it's not really designed for quick sales.
Okay.
And they'll, you can be flagged as what's called a dealer if they see that you're going into these 1031s and then like paying off quickly and doing it again. And again, that's not what the 1031 is for.
Okay.
So, you'd have to be I would not recommend it because it's not within the
Okay.
1031 guidelines.
Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Thank you.
Yeah. But we have, seen some people that did it, and then again, I'm not an accountant. The times that, and we don't see many, but the times I can think of more recently, they did end up like borrowing it. They ended up, refinancing it into a long-term hold versus selling it. So that's probably what helped them stay within the 1031 guidelines.
And is there some sort of, I'm sure that there's a calculator out there for this type of stuff that when you're looking at these properties, you can kind of do the math in your head to see if it's going to be a good deal or not. Do you have any recommendations on, maybe Charles has something too?
It's actually pretty simple since this short-term financing is just interest only. So, if you can calculate your loan amount. So again, like if we were lending 90% of purchase price and repairs, you figure out the loan amount, 90% of purchase price, 90% of repairs, and then just take that times the interest rate. So for example, if that's 10%, you take your loan amount times the 10% and then divide that by 12. That'll give you a rough idea. It's not going to be exact because again, we don't charge interest on the construction funds from day one. So it'll give you a good overall idea.
And so kind
And
of
then multiply that by 6, right? Multiply by
Sorry,
6 just to give
that would
yourself a
actually be
cushion.
divided by, yes, thank you. I didn't finish my train of thought. You have to divide it by 12 because the 10% is if that is what your rate is, that's an annualized rate. So loan amount times interest rate divide by 12. So pretty simple.
And then multiply by a couple months. Yeah, give it a couple months as well, because you want to factor that in, James. So when you're going through this, yes, like the money piece on this side's pretty simple. And just like what Merchants is doing, saying, hey, have 10% for a cushion. Also plan that it's going to take you 6 months to get this thing through because you want to know what your holding costs. And then it's all profit if you get it done in 4 months, right? Like you just saved a couple $1,000, rock and roll. The other piece is knowing more so like, go figure out like what costs are at Home Depot, right? Because that's how I used to do it. Is I would just figure out Home Depot costs, even though it's not where I was purchasing my stuff from, but I figure out that dollar amount, and then you got to figure out what a contractor costs, and then you're tying it all together. But that's the piece where I say it gets a little bit overwhelming. Like if you're going to do like a week, because you got to jam all that stuff in. You don't have contractors coming in and bidding, so you almost have to know exactly what a contractor ballpark is going to charge you. But the money from merchants, like that's simple to figure out.
And always happy to help if you have questions on calculations or any of that.
And I'll add to on the contractor side, because like Charles said, that can be one of the hardest parts. But when you start doing it and you start building a relationship with contractors, a lot of our clients, when they are looking at properties, they will ask the contractor to go with them. So that way, when they're seeing the property and they're going to make an offer on it, the contractor can also get in their bid around the same time. Typically contractors might only do that if you worked with them because they know you're going to use them for the project. But as you're developing your relationships with contractors, you can ask them if they would go with you and give a bid early on, or you can send them the Zillow link before you go and see if they can give like a sight unseen bid. Because we would need those in pretty quickly if it's going to close in a week.
And not all of them close in a week. You will find some sellers that like have no interest in closing that quickly because they've, got their own new buy going on that they need time for, or it's an estate sale and they need time to work through the estate and all of that.
Yeah, and then I just saw Charles' question. So would that be beneficial if I got a contractor to walk a home with us and bid it? Absolutely, yes. I'll take, for example, my boyfriend does fix and flips, and he has built a relationship with a contractor, and anytime he's super interested in a property, the contractor goes with him as he's touring the house. And, you know, he can kind of see like, oh, this is going to be roughly 50,000 or 80,000, or, oh, maybe this is going to be really complicated. It looks like it needs foundation work or this and that. So if you can get a contractor to walk the property with you, that is so, so helpful.
Well, if there's anything else, don't hesitate to reach out to me or Julia. Again, thanks, Charles, for your support. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys that hopped on today.
Yeah, super appreciate it, Kim. Guys, and this is the thing, like if you're thinking that this is something for you, set up a meeting with Kim and go sit down in her office and go through and see kind of what you qualify for, right? Like you're gonna go through, make sure you have your financials, you're gonna go do all that. They're gonna want to know where all the treasure is buried. I can tell you that. They don't care about your cars and everything, but they're gonna want to know about where all the loan products are and where the savings are. And then you're gonna see kind of and feel the process. Like go feel the process with Kim so that you're more educated to go when someone's calling you and saying, hey, I'm interested in doing some fix and flips. Who do you know? You're like, awesome. Let's go talk to Kim. I've been through the process with her. I know it's smooth, and then it just makes things simpler. So Kim, Julie, I super appreciate both of you, and looking forward to the rest of this year, and hopefully we'll be doing some fix and flips with some loan products that you guys offer.
Love it. Thank you guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye, thank you.